Hello guys, how are you? My name is Marcus Magiolo. I'm an author and also an animal behaviorist. And today the video is kind of special because I'm gonna talk about a place that I like very much. And this place is the city of Orlando. So I live around the city of Orlando. I don't live inside Orlando. I live in a little city in the metro area, let's say like that, in Orlando. But I am pretty much like 15 minutes from Disney parks and 30 minutes from downtown Orlando. And I don't know if you guys know, but Orlando became in the last 10 years the city in US with most Brazilians. There's so many Brazilians living in Orlando, and a point that you're walking on the streets and you can hear and listen people speaking Portuguese. And that's a good thing. Actually, I love that. And today I'm gonna try to talk a little bit here from my perspective why Orlando attracts so many Brazilians, why Brazilians love Orlando. So the first reason why I think Brazilians love Orlando, it's because it became almost a little Brazil in the United States. You walk in some areas in Orlando and it's all Brazilians. We have grocery stores, restaurants, good restaurants, not bad restaurants, good and authentic Brazilian restaurants, grocery stores, bakeries, pizza places. You can eat an authentic Brazilian pizza in Orlando. And not just that, you have stores or business that you can go in and is owned by Brazilians. So everybody speaks Portuguese. And when Brazilians think about moving to US, Orlando become one of the first options because of that, because they come here and they feel at home. It's like a little piece of Brazil out of Brazil. And I think this is one of the main reasons why. The second reason why I think Brazilians love Orlando, it's connected to the first one, because if you have all this Brazilian business in Orlando, that gives Brazilians jobs. So like if you move to the US and if you're trying to find a job and if you are not fluent with English yet, you have a bunch of opportunity to work on retail, like in stores or restaurants or places that are owned by Brazilians that offer Brazilian services to tourists, and that's it. You're gonna find jobs here in Orlando. Even in theme parks and companies like Disney or Orlando, they need people who speak Portuguese to talk with the visitants, like not just Brazilian people, but Portuguese people and people who comes from other countries that also speak Portuguese. So there is a lot of job opportunities for Brazilians in Orlando. And as I say, one thing, it's like feed the other thing. So like if you have a lot of Brazilian business, you need Brazilians to work. And if you need Brazilians to work, you bring more Brazilians from Brazil to work here. The other reason why I think Brazilians love Orlando is because it's close. Of course, it's not that close. If you come from São Paulo, that is the city where I come from, it's like a 9 hours flight. So it's a long flight. But if you come from north of Brazil, it's pretty much like a 4 hours flight, 5 hours flight. And the Florida State, like Orlando, is very close to the South American. So it's much easier to come to Florida than to go to north, like I would say Chicago, or even on the West Coast, like in California or the North States, or even states in the middle of the US. So it's closer. So I think this is another reason. Another reason why Brazilians love Orlando is the cost of living. Orlando is much cheaper than if you compare with other big cities. Like if you compare Orlando with New York or Chicago or California, the whole state of California, or even if you compare with Atlanta and those big cities, Orlando is much cheaper. The taxes here are much cheaper. Property taxes are much cheaper here. So like even insurance is a little cheaper here. We have hurricanes, so sometimes the insurance can be a little bit higher, but I think when compared with the other cities, Orlando is pretty cheap. And another reason why Brazilians love Orlando is not just Orlando, but the Florida overall, the state, is because of the weather. The weather in Florida is pretty similar with most parts of Brazil. In Brazil, we don't have the winter that Americans have to deal every year. If you ask too many Brazilians, they will say, oh, I would love to move to a country that is cold because I love the cold, because Brazil is too hot. And then some of those Brazilians move to north of US and they realize that they never saw cold weather ever in their lives. Because when Brazilians say cold weather, that means 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And when they arrive like in Chicago or New York or those cities in the middle of the country and the winter is like -10, they pretty much realize that, yeah, I don't like the cold, I'm gonna live in Florida. So like Florida here, when it's very cold in January, we have like 30s and 40s. So the winter in Florida is pretty similar with the winter in Brazil, and the summer in Florida is pretty similar with the summer in Brazil. So the weather, it is an important factor. And when you hear a Brazilian say that, I want to live in the cold because I like most the cold, no, don't believe him. And of course, another reason why I think Brazilians love Orlando is because entertainment. Orlando is a very fun city, and Brazilians are very fun people. We like being outside. We like going to places. And if you look at the map, where is Orlando? Of course, aside of all the fun places we have here, we have the theme parks, we have Disney, we have Universal Studios, we have SeaWorld, we have Tampa that is not that far when they have Busch Gardens. We have the NASA theme park that is like the Kennedy Visitor Complex that is not that far from here. The beaches are not far from here, like an hour drive, an hour 20 minutes drive, you are in a beach. So like there's everything. Do you like nighttime fun? We have bars, nightclubs, restaurants from any kind you can imagine. Brazilian restaurants, but we have Italian restaurants, German restaurants, Caribbean food. So like we have a bunch of stuff to do in Orlando, and that it connects with Brazilians. When you go to a city where it's very cold and everybody needs to stay home, nobody can go out of the house, nobody can go to work because there's a blizzard, nobody can go to school because there's a blizzard, so everybody needs to stay inside the house where it's warm, and you need to wake up at 5 a.m. to remove the snow in front of your house. With time, Brazilians hate that, and they start looking for places where there's more stuff to do, when they like to be outside and it's warm. Overall speaking, of course, there is Brazilians living everywhere in US. Brazilians love the United States. There are a bunch of work opportunities here in this country, different than Brazil, that unfortunately the Brazilian government treats the Brazilian very badly. So here, US, it's very open arms with the Brazilians, and that's why I think Brazil and US have and had always a good relationship. Thank you very much.